Feeling kind of mellow right now because I'm embarrassed. I'm wholeheartedly and personally embarrassed. I host a radio program for a living. I'm going to back this up because I'm going to play you some audio. I have been working my way up the food chain in the radio industry since I was 18 years old. I started at a small carrier current radio station at a 2-year school called State University of New York at Delhi. The radio station was 640 AM WDTU. I had an alternative show back before alternative was cool. As a matter of fact, you almost had to sneak in alternative songs at that time because hair metal was still so big. And I remember playing bands like Naked Raygun and Primus and Judas Priest all in the same show. It wasn't alternative rock then. Nobody really knew what to call it. But I was one of these DJs that was really enthused to get music that wasn't on MTV and wasn't on the radio, and most people weren't familiar with. And sometimes when we didn't get stuff, I would go looking for it. I remember finding an album cover with a baby swimming in water that nobody knew. It was Nirvana. Well, I had Bleach back then. That was their first album. And I remember my friends, I'm backing you, I'm doing this for a reason. I remember my friends all hated the advanced copy of Smells Like Teen Spirit. I didn't like it either, but I played it because it was something different. We were playing bands like Screaming Trees, like I said, Primus. The stuff that, wasn't breaking through to most suburban teenagers who just bought Dr. Feelgood, who were into Rat or whatever. Metallica's Black Album hadn't even come out yet. And I fell in love with radio. When I first got to that radio station, it was run by basically AV squad geeks. Sometimes the radio station was on for an hour, sometimes it was off. Sometimes DJs just didn't feel like showing up, or they had to be in class. And, why would you take a shift on a radio station when you knew you had to be in class? And I managed to become the program director of the radio station. And I set rules. And I started corresponding with the College Music Journal and getting free product. And, I had it in my head that we were not going to go off the air. And if you had to leave for a half hour or an hour, we had a stack of movie soundtracks, all with different artists. This way, it would give the appearance that the radio station was, this was before automation. Remember, this is a low-budget 2-year college radio station. And we would play movie soundtracks. And then I got in a crop of DJs who were committed. And then I ended up failing out of that school because all I did was work at the radio station. I answered the phones. I did everything. I ended up failing out. I'm admitting this to you. And I ended up transferring to a school back home on Long Island called State University of New York at Farmingdale, lateral move. And I got an internship at WLIR Radio. I was the morning show intern for Darren Smith, who's the program director of First Wave 22 and the Coffee House here at Sirius XM. He was the morning show guy. Up against Howard Stern. And all I wanted to do was learn more about radio. And I felt like I was getting training and learning through osmosis and learning things about the business I would never learn in a college classroom. And in the mornings, I'd be at the WLIR at 5 o'clock in the morning, helping prepare the morning show, and I'd be there till the morning show was over. Then I would go to my radio station, take care of business, go to class, come back. And at that point, I even joined the hockey team as a taxi squatter. I wasn't even on the official roster. I was kind of like Rudy in the movie Rudy. And I would have to come into my internship with bruised ribs or a sore back or hurt knees because I was practicing at the ice rink with the team till 2, 3 in the morning sometimes. I'm telling you this for a reason. I want you to listen to this very carefully. There's a reason why I'm telling you this, not just so you know my life story. When I was at WCTF in Farmingdale, I brought all of the good ideas I had from my previous college radio station, and they had more than carrier current. They actually had a small on-air frequency that you could literally hear in your car. And I couldn't understand why the radio station was so unpopular. Was it because WBAB was there? Was it because K-Rock was there? Was it because WLIR was there? Or BLI or Hot 97 or whatever? So I set out to do research. And I found that at night, 88% of the dormitory students, the people that lived on campus, were black. But during the day, the campus was more diverse. So basically, I sat the staff down and I said, look, we can't have heavy metal shows at night when nobody's listening to them. And a lot of the black kids on the radio station couldn't believe that the white guy who became program director was actually changing the format of the radio station to dance hall reggae, R&B, and hip hop after 4 p.m. Because that's who was on campus. That was what the research came back. And then I made the radio station available for DJing. And people started to get into the radio station. Maybe not so much. It wasn't like we were exploding onto some scene and creating something new. But I ran the station like a business. And the audience for the radio station at night was different than the audience during the day. So during the day, we played standard college music, played a little, stuff off of MTV or off mainstream radio. But at night, I let the DJs have a free hand. That experience helped get me a partial scholarship. That experience became part of my resume that actually helped me get into the University of Florida. Because the University of Florida was very selective, especially of transfer students looking to get into their most popular program, the College of Journalism and Communications. I had handwritten letters from officials of the State University of New York. And I had letters of recommendation from the higher-ups at Jared Broadcasting, the owners of WLIR. I worked tirelessly. When I got to the University of Florida, I thought I was going to be the be-all, end-all. I came walking into the rock station, WRUF-FM, and I said, I'm going to be your new morning show guy. I'm admitting this to you. And the program director, Harry Guscott, who's still the program director there now today, said, okay, read these cards for me. And he explained to me that they became harder to read in ascending order. I arrogantly went right to number 4 and started reading it, to which I stumbled, I stammered. I wasn't used to reading something off of a script. He took his glasses off. He laid them down on the desk. He leaned back in his office chair and he said, you suck. And he might as well have climbed across the desk and punched me in the face. I'm going someplace with this. And I said, I didn't know what to say. So I came back for a second meeting and I said, listen, I will do whatever it takes to get on this radio station. And he said, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do commercial radio sounding breaks. I want you to go into a production studio. I want you to record yourself as if you were doing a radio program. He said, I pick 1 to 2 students per semester for on air, and that's it. I didn't make the first cut. The second time around, I made it. The first thing that I did was, when he sat around with the staff, he said, who wants to be on the air before the Gator football games? I said, I do. The reason being is nobody did. Everybody wanted to be at the games or tailgating. So I took on the job that nobody wanted. I also did 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning before the morning show. I also did weekend nights. I also did spring break, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas, everything and anything to get myself on to that radio station, to be on the air. Then I got a full-time job with Rock 104 in Gainesville, Florida. And I gave up everything. I didn't go to any family functions. I missed birthdays, holidays, weddings. I took any and every opportunity to be on the air. And then I graduated. And I couldn't get hired to save my life. I was mailing out tapes. I was making phone calls. I was sending resumes. Finally, I got a part-time job at a station called Z96 in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And I went down there and busted my rear end. And from that, I got a full-time job at a radio station called WCLG 100.1 in Morgantown, West Virginia, where I got my first full-time professional nighttime radio program, to which I was paid $13,000 annual salary in 1998. I don't care where you think that gets you by. It doesn't.